Okay, so can you guys see my screen now? Maybe a yes or no?
Yes.
Thank you, Patrick. Thank you, Derek. So why first year engineering program? Why starting in a first year engineering program is a really good idea? Well, different from those programs where you start directly into the major, at Purdue and in many other institutions, this is not only Purdue, but in many other institutions, the engineering colleges have a common first year program. That means that instead of going directly into mechanical engineering or directly into chemical engineering, you guys first will start into the common first year engineering program. And this gives you a very good advantage, which is that you can meet many people that have different interests, and it gives you the opportunity to explore firsthand the different engineering majors, right? So during that first year that you are in the common program, you have the opportunity to talk with faculty in the majors that you are interested in. You have the opportunity to hear from engineering majors that you probably have never heard of or maybe never considered because you didn't know exactly what they were. You have the opportunity to talk with current students to see how is it like to be a student in a certain engineering major. You have the opportunity to talk with faculty, advisors, and also you have the opportunity to connect with alumni and industry representatives that can also give you their perspective on what is it to be a certain type of engineer, right? So that's a really good advantage that you will have. And then at the end of those 2 semesters that you are in the first year engineering program, at the end of that first year, you can decide with a lot of information which major you want to pursue. So that is a really good advantage of starting in a first year engineering program. There are another 2 things that are very that have an advantage of starting in a common first year program. The first thing is that you have a dedicated group of advisors that have seen a lot of first year engineering students and are dedicated to work with first year engineering students. What does that mean? We know that the transition from high school to college is a very important one. You're not only changing the institution that you're studying, many of you are moving away from your home. Is the first time that you're living by yourselves, um, and you're really kind of making a huge life transition, and our advisors know that. So having dedicated advisors that have seen a lot of students going through that transition is very advantageous because they can direct you to the resources that you need to be successful. And the final thing is that at Purdue, the first year engineering program is run by the School of Engineering Education. What that means is that we have a group of professors that are dedicated to do research in how to learn and teach engineering, and they take all that expertise that they collect in doing that research and they put it into work into our courses. So you can see, I brought a picture of some of them. They are engineers themselves. We have mechanical engineers, chemical engineers, materials engineers, computer science engineers, but they've also dedicated their lives to research what are the best pedagogical practices, how students learn how to be engineers, and they put all of that in practice in our engineering courses in the first year engineering program. You guys can see here what's the breakdown by gender, race, ethnicity, and residency of our our brand new fall 2020 students. You can see that we are around 25% female, and we have a good number of students from different race and nationalities. What are the things or the courses that you will take as first year engineering students? The program is designed to be completed in 2 semesters with 9 general requirements. What are those requirements and how are they distributed between the 2 semesters? So in the first semester, you're supposed to complete 4 of those requirements. You're supposed to take your first engineering course, your first math class. Oh, someone had a question? Feel free to interrupt me at any time. Since we're only a few like a few people in the call, I think that'll be okay. So I was saying the first semester, you're supposed to complete 4 requirements: your first introductory engineering class, your first calculus class, your first communication class, and your first science class, which is typically chemistry. In the second semester, you are going to be completing your second engineering class. You're going to be completing your second calculus class, your second communication class, your second science class, which is typically physics. And then you have the opportunity to choose a first year engineering selective. And the most common ones are either chemistry, if you're thinking about going into a major that is heavily or chemistry based, or is chemistry has a lot of chemistry. So for example, if you're thinking about chemical engineering, if you're thinking about biomedical engineering, if you're thinking about biological engineering, environmental engineering, you want to take that selective as chemistry. On the contrary, if you're thinking about a major that is more physics based or programming based, like mechanical or aero or computer, you want to take the programming class. And those 9 requirements will prepare you to tackle those very challenging sophomore courses, right? So you're gonna find in your sophomore courses, you're gonna do either your thermal class or your mass balance class or your aeromechanics class. So all those courses from the first year engineering program are gonna prepare you to tackle those sophomore courses. Any questions so far?
For the like stuff like written communication, oral communication, can we like get the credit from it through like an AP class or like a dual credit class, or do we have to take it at the campus?
There are opportunities to do dual credit or to bring AP credit for the written communication class. For the oral communication class, we have a test out exam that you can also take if you feel that you're prepared. So there are opportunities to do other things instead of taking the classes.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. So these classes, I said there are 9 requirements, but as I just mentioned, there are options within on how to complete those requirements. So for example, for your calculus class, the first one that you take in the fall, you have the opportunity to choose between 2 different types of classes, right? One that gives you a little bit more support than the others. Same thing for your calculus 2, right here where it says math 162 and math 66. Both classes meet the same requirement, but they are different classes. Same thing for your chemistry class. You can fulfill it in 2 different ways. Your engineering classes gives you a lot of options. There are 1, 2, 3, 4 different ways that you can fulfill your engineering class requirements. And then for your reading and oral communication classes, there are a couple of lists that the university, like running lists that the university has with courses that will allow you to meet those 2 requirements. So there are a lot of options, and that's the ones that I just mentioned are to complete the mandatory requirements for the first year engineering program. However, if you want to enrich your experience, there are other things that you can do. So for example, you can join a learning community. Let's say that you're very passionate about global issues. Maybe you can join the global engineering learning community in your first year at Purdue. Let's say that you're really passionate about designing for things that have a high impact in real life. Then maybe you can join the Design Purdue in Real Life learning community. Joining one of these learning communities is going to bring you closer to people that have similar interests. And in terms of classes, it's probably going to add one more credit class to your load. So it's not going to be a lot. If you are still interested of maybe taking another class, but you don't necessarily want to join a learning community, or you don't want to take like a 3 credit class, we do offer other sets of electives that are 1 credit electives. They are optional and they are about other topics. So let's say you don't know anything about nuclear engineering and you want to learn a little bit more. You can join, for example, the nuclear non-proliferation selective. and that will only add 1 credit to your course load. So these courses are designed to be seminar-like, and mainly they are to just inform you of different things that are happening in different fields of engineering. So what happens when you complete all of your requirements? So let's say you started in August and you're aiming to complete the first year engineering program in May. How does that process look like? And how did you end up moving into the major that you're going to continue at Purdue? So during the first semester, your fall semester with us, the main thing that we want you to focus on is on exploring and learning and compiling information about the different majors that we have at Purdue. This is the moment where you need to start asking questions, that you need to start reaching out to people and really, really trying to understand what are the things that move you, what are the things that you're passionate about, what are the things that you see yourself doing in the long term, right? We provide different opportunities to do that, but to be honest with you, this is a process that is self-driven. That means that I'm going to take you as an example. If Colin really wants to learn about mechanical engineering, I'm sure he will move heaven and earth to try to figure out and get answers to the questions that he wants. But if he is not interested, there is no amount of information that we can present to Colin. He's just not going to care, and he's not going to, process that information. So it's really this first semester is about the drive that you have in collecting that information and is really collecting information from 2 different places. One is about all the majors that we have at Purdue, but the other one is about yourself, like asking yourself the questions: what is it that I want to do, right? What is it that I see myself doing? So we will have some, as I said, we will present in the engineering classes some information to you, but you really have to go above and beyond and, for example, participate in the industrial roundtable or reach out to the advisors and the student organizations and make those connections with people. So once the first semester is over, in the second semester, we're very quickly going to ask you, what is your preference of major? And the reason why we do this so early in the semester, this is going to happen around week 6. Many students are taken by surprise. But we do this very fast in the semester just because we want you to start thinking about what are the classes that you're going to sign up for this next fall, right? And in order to do that, we need to know which major is it that you're thinking to go into. So we will ask you here, what is your first choice of major? During March, April, you're going to meet with an advisor in that major. You're going to plan your next fall semester. And then at the end of May, when grades post, we will verify that you completed all the 9 requirements of the first year engineering program. If that is true, then we will officially send your name to your first choice of major, of engineering major, and they will consider you for admission. If that is not the case, if for some reason you still need to take your calculus class again, or maybe you withdraw one of the classes and you need to take it again, then you will stay in the first year engineering program. What happens between February and May? Let's say that in February you told us that you wanted to be in agricultural engineering, but then you met with the people from agricultural engineering, you plan your fall semester, you start to meet other students, you start learning more about agricultural engineering, and then you realize that that's not what you want to do. You really don't want to be in agricultural, you want to be in biomedical engineering. Then you still can change your mind. It's okay. You can always change your mind until grades post. Nothing is written on a stone until grades post and we send your name for consideration to the schools. So that's why you have a whole year to really make your decision.
I have a quick question. So
Sure,
like
Patrick, go ahead.
for the placements, for the grades, is it like does each department have their own specific like criteria, or is it just a general criteria for all the engineering schools?
So let me see if I was having some trouble listening to you. So you were asking
Oh.
about the requirements to get into the majors. Is that what you were asking?
Is there like a specific one for each department, or is it just a general requirement to get into all of the engineering schools of your choice? And is there like a limit to how many people can get in, or is it like?
So that's exactly what I was going to talk about after. So historically, we have, historically, most programs accept all the students that are presented. So we only have at capacity, historically, a couple of majors. What I mean by at capacity is that they don't have enough seats for all the students that want to go into them. Those are mechanical engineering and aero engineering. But other than that, if you want to go into civil engineering, if you want to go into chemical engineering, if you want to go into biomedical, biological engineering, they will take you. They will take all the students that want to go into that major. We have other programs that come in and out of our list of at capacity programs. Biomedical engineering is one of them, for example. So sometimes biomedical engineering gets really popular and they get more students that apply than seats that they can offer, but sometimes it's not. So it really depends on your cohort. It really depends on who are you competing with? What are the other students choosing? Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then as of how are the schools speaking, right? Like I already said, if they are not at capacity, they will take everyone who applies to that major. But if they are at capacity, like mechanical engineering or aero engineering, it becomes a matter of how competitive is are you versus all the other students that are applying. So it's very difficult to give you a number because it's not done that way. They just review all the applications individually and they said, okay, this is how the pool is looking, right? We have very, very good candidates. Everyone that applied, for example, to Aero had a GPA higher than 3.4 and we cannot take them all, right? Or maybe other semesters, the case will be like, well, okay, we have a very typical semester where all the students that apply to Aero have an average GPA of 3.0, right? So it varies one semester from another. So it's very hard to give you a number. So I will say, do your best. That's the best bet that you can do. Give your best. Okay, I only have a few more minutes because I want to give time if anyone has questions. So two more thoughts to share with you. The first one is, even though you think that you know what you want to do and which major you want to be in, we have evidence that shows that at about 45% of the students change their mind from the moment that they send their application to Purdue to the moment that they complete the first year engineering program regarding to which major they want to go into. And the plot that you're seeing there is showing you how people move from the moment that they send their admission to the moment that they actually have to choose. For example, you can see Aero, you have tons of people from Aero going to mechanical. You have, for example, computer engineering picking a lot of people from multiple majors, right? One major that becomes really known during that first year is industrial engineering. So if you see how many students at the very beginning said that they wanted to go into industrial engineering was 34, and then they ended up with 125. So really just have an open mind. Just don't be open to listen to what the other disciplines have to hear, and that will actually give you the opportunity to either confirm your decision or maybe change it for the best. We offer tons of support, and I mean, Purdue is, I think, one of the places that I've seen that has so many different things to offer to students. For every single need that a student has, there's always an office that can provide something that can really help you in anything or any way that you're considering. Um, Best advice that I can give you is always go to your first year engineering advisors. Um, if they don't know the answer, they will point you to the right answer, but they will really give you the resources that you need to be successful. And the last thing that I'm going to say was something that I was asked to include is, what are the keys for success, right? And I really thought about this, like, what is it that you need to do to be successful at Purdue? And when I was thinking about that, I thought, well, we provide students with a lot of resources, right? And we are certain that the students that are with us are in the right place. So if you came to Purdue, we're sure that you have the potential to become a really good engineer, one of the best, that you're going to give the best of yourself. And if you do that, you will become a really good engineer. But in the same way that we offer so many resources so you can be the best of yourself, we really ask you to put in the effort and take it seriously, right? I will say that I've never seen anyone at Purdue holding hands and try to push students to do something that they don't want to. I will say it's a team effort. Like, you put in the effort, you take this seriously, and we will give you all the resources that you need to make it happen. So I think that's something that is really good about Purdue. We're always working together. And the other two things that I will say are keys for success is keep up. It's because it's easier to keep up than to catch up. You will realize that at the college level, there are tons of things that you need to do for all your classes. Plus, there are tons of things to do that you could do for your general holistic development. Plus, there are tons of things to do to have fun. So pick wisely, have your priorities, and keep up with your priorities. And the last thing is just connect. Don't be a stranger. Embrace the Purdue Boilermaker culture and just become part of the campus, and it will be amazing. You'll have an amazing experience. So with that, I'm going to stop and I'm going to open it for any other questions that you might have.
What happens if you don't get accepted into the engineering program after your first year? And do you just go back to like the first year program and have to retake it?
Well, no, you don't have to retake the first year engineering program. We usually ask you when, let me just go back here. Right here in February, when I ask you what is your first major of choice, I also ask you what is your second major of choice. And the reason why is because, contrary to what most people think, there are multiple ways, multiple engineering fields can take you to the goal that you want to achieve in the long term. So I'll give you an example. Let's say that you're really passionate about our aerospace industry. You really want to go into aero, right? And in your mind, maybe the most logical thing to do is to study aeronautical engineering, but you were not accepted. Well, that's not a big issue. You can always get into the aeronautical industry, into the aero industry, if you study, for example, materials engineering. It's a very common field and a very common way to get into the aero industry by being a materials engineer. So really, it's hard to say that you're going to get it wrong, but that you're going to pick your wrong major at Purdue, because you're going to be a Purdue engineer, you're going to be an excellent engineer, and you can take your major wherever you want to go. Chemical engineering is another example that is a very versatile major, so you can go into multiple industries with that degree. So if you're not chosen by your first choice, your name will be sent to your second choice, and most likely they will accept you. We have a few exceptions, very few cases where students are not accepted into their first or second choice. And what we do then is we work with the student to understand better where they want to go, right? Like, for example, you and I can sit down and say, okay, what are your goals? What is it that you're passionate about? And then we try to find a major that will allow you to get there. Maybe it's not the conventional route, but it's a major that will give you everything that you need to get where you want to go after you graduate. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
Good, no problem. Any other questions? Oops. Okay. So, Derek, thank you very much for the invitation. I really appreciate it. And to everyone who came. If you have any questions, maybe you didn't think about it right now, but if you ever have a question, just send me an email and I'll be happy to answer your question to the best of my abilities.
All righty, I guess it's my turn now. So my name is Colin Mixon. I'm a 5th year senior this year in electrical engineering. Not too long ago, about 5 years, I was in the position of all of you. So feel free to ask me literally anything. I'm an open book, I'll be honest. I'll try and give you some insight into what my experience has been thus far as an engineering student, as a Black engineering student here at Purdue, and all the other goodies that come with that. I'm gonna share my screen. And we will get started. Okay. Sorry, there's trying to figure this out.
You're doing great.
I'm trying to, okay, there we go. All righty. So I will not talk about the nitty-gritty details of the first year engineering program since the professor did that. Funny fact, Dr. Isabella was my professor for Engineering 131, Ideals to Innovate.
I was about to ask you. I thought I recognized you and I said, I'm gonna ask him at the end. Yeah, I remember you.
That's kind of cool just for me and her. But to the rest of you, feel free to interrupt me at any point in time. I'm a real casual presenter. I'd rather it be a conversation than a presentation. So all the students, feel free, or students or parents or whoever else is here, feel free to interrupt me, ask any clarifying questions or things you want me to specifically touch on, and I'll do that. No need to necessarily wait to the end to ask any specific questions. So starting with the first thing, for the benefit of you all, actually, I had the opportunity to do both the Ideas to Innovation pathway, as well as what is now known as the Goss Scholars pathway. Back when I did it 4 years ago, it was just honors college engineering. But regardless of the pathway that you choose, you will have the opportunity to experience these 4 main categories, which are team working skills, critical analysis, career exploration, and problem solving. Starting with career exploration, Professor Isabel mentioned that you'll have the opportunity not to only pursue your own resources and investigate decisions for yourself, but the school or the first year engineering program will also provide some resources and some direction on not only what to do after you graduate, but also what is available to you while you're here on campus in terms of clubs and organizations that may be associated with a certain major. Obviously, the majors that themselves that we'll discuss or I'll communicate later on in the presentation. So you have all the resources in terms of career exploration at your fingertips beginning that first year. And then critical analysis and problem solving are the 2 biggest things that as an engineering student in my 5th year, something that I've been able to take to every single internship that I've had, and has been one of the strongest skills that I've been able to develop regardless of your major or engineering discipline that you end up choosing. And then as mentioned, you have the opportunity to have the engineering class, but then also those other calculus, science, communications, and elective classes. Just a quick note on calculus and science. Just from my experience as a first year engineering student, I will say, oh, I didn't even introduce myself all the way, but that'll be that'll be taken care of later. I will say calculus and science are going to be most closely related to your AP classes. So if you've had the pleasure of taking AP physics, chemistry, biology, or AP calculus, calculus 1 and 2 in high school, then the material itself that you'll learn in college at Purdue Engineering will be very similar, if not the same, with a couple of differences. The biggest difference besides content is you have to now take a year's worth of material that you may have learned in high school and now cram it into about half the time, 16 weeks, because that's the pace of a college curriculum and academic schedule. So while the content is the same, by no means will it be quote unquote easier. It may just even be harder just because you are moving at a faster pace, a pace that you may not be accustomed to. But once you get into the rhythm, once you understand the process of being in a college and in college, then you'll be right on your way towards success. So there is a transition. Personally, I remember that transition, but it is manageable. If I can make it, you guys can make it. Any questions? I know some students were past the point where Dr. Isabel mentioned first year engineering. I want to make sure if there are any other questions regarding first year engineering that those are taken care of before I kind of switch gears into another subject. All righty. Don't be shy, I promise. Okay, so these are kind of some general statistics that we Boilermakers, Purdue and Purdue Engineering are just very proud of. So the first statistic that you see is the number 9 public university. This statistic is specifically looking at what it means to be a student at Purdue. So is the food good? Are there a lot of campus resources for academics, for yourself in terms of wellness and health? And then what's the support like? Are there, in terms of, support is important, but that's not the word I'm looking for. What's the word? Academic resources, academic support, mental health support. There we go. Those resources available on your campus? And then this statistic is also looking at student outcomes. So do you actually get a job? What's the placement rate of you getting a job? What's your starting salary? Things of that nature. Are you happy with all those placements? So that's kind of what that first statistic is looking for. The second statistic is looking at reputation. So when it compares to other top engineering students across the country, where does Purdue Engineering stand? And it stands in the top 10. So that's something that you can feel proud about in terms of when you go to internships, when you go to career fairs, you know you are prepared to step into any environment and any opportunity and excel and be successful. And then lastly, you'll see that we are number 6, I believe, or number 5 most innovative school. And innovation is looking at it across the board. So has campus life improved? Technology on campus, buildings, resources, facilities, have all of these things stayed stagnant, or have they increased and improved as time has gone on? And I would say going on my 5th year, seeing different buildings, seeing different technologies, seeing different teaching styles be implemented and incorporated, not only throughout first year engineering, but into your own curriculum as an engineering student. Once you do choose your major, I can definitely understand why Purdue Engineering is the number 5 most innovative school. So then we're going to talk about what is your experience going to look like, and what is it going to be like just from a student body perspective. So in terms of geographically, we have 10,000 engineering students here at Purdue. Undergraduate students here at Purdue University is 30,000, whereas engineering students is around 10,000. We do represent all 50 states, and we do have 100 represented countries within the engineering student body. And then you can also see what that breakdown looks like in terms of residency, 30%, around 50% out of state, and then around a little less than 20% for international students. And in terms of demographics, we do offer the second highest a number of bachelor students to women in engineering. We have the Women in Engineering program, which was founded here at Purdue University. The first of its kind is at Purdue University. We have 5 cultural centers. We have the Minority Engineering program, which is one of the main reasons why I actually ended up choosing Purdue, regardless of the fact that I am from Indiana. I was able to go to Minority Engineering program, multiple of their camps, meet with Dr. Booth on campus and experience what it means to be an MEP, the tutoring center, what that community and culture is like. So that was one of the main reasons why I ended up choosing Purdue Engineering, funny enough. And then we are the birthplace and founding chapter of the National Society of Black Engineers. This is kind of one of the pieces that I missed in my introduction. I am currently the corporate relations chairperson for the National Society of Black Engineers. NSBE is founded here at Purdue, was founded at Purdue in 1964, I want to say. They're an international organization with hundreds of chapters at multiple college campuses. And to say that you are attending Purdue University, Purdue Engineering with NSBE, with that storied history and storied culture, it's a really good feeling when you do go to those regional conferences, national conferences, and you get to claim the mother chapter is what we call ourselves as your chapter for NSBE. So that's definitely a fun aspect of being a Purdue Engineering student. Side note, I will say, if you don't sadly end up choosing Purdue Engineering, still join a NSBE chapter at the school that you attend. That is just how amazing NSBE has been, not only for myself, but other students here at Purdue. I'm going kind of quickly, so if you feel I need to slow down, again, if you have questions over specific information or material, feel free to stop me or tell me to slow down. Happy to engage you guys in some conversation and questions. Okay, so going into student enrollment, you will see on the left-hand side, electrical and computer engineering. That is our biggest school, the School of Electrical and Computer Engineering. And then our biggest major is mechanical, and then everything else is as follows. I won't rattle off all the numbers, but you can kind of see how things are broken down over those 3 years, sophomore, junior, and senior year. So why do you actually come to Purdue? Why do you actually go to college? Why do you actually become an engineer? At the end of the day, it is to do what? To get a job, to get paid, to become an alumni. So 85% of our students at Purdue Engineering have at least one experience or one internship experience before they graduate. Myself, I've had 2 at 2 different companies, one at Intel, after my sophomore year, so summer of 2018 to December of 2018. And then I've had 2 internships at Microsoft the following summer, so summer 2019, and then this past summer 2020. And then I'll actually be returning to Microsoft again this upcoming summer as an intern again. Not only will I get into my internship experience later on in the presentation, but I'll get into internships and co-ops as the presentation goes on. So going back to this slide, 97% placement rate within 6 months of graduating. You do have a pretty high salary as a engineer overall in general, with $70,000 average starting salary. And then you will ultimately join a network of 82,000 engineering alumni once you do graduate. And even as a student at Purdue Engineering, as a Boilermaker, being able to personally go to the West Coast when I went to Intel, go to the West Coast when I went to Microsoft as well. I had a lanyard and Target, and someone was screamed out, "Boiler up." So you will be in a sea of Boilermakers regardless of wherever you go. Sometimes that's a great thing, sometimes not so much. Sometimes you just want to fly under the radar. But it is extremely powerful to be able to say, yes, I was a Purdue Boilermaker. People know what that is. People are familiar with Purdue and Purdue Engineering. regardless of its physical location. Alrighty, so now I'm going to go into the phase of what do you do once you have all of this academic knowledge, right? Quote unquote theoretical knowledge. Well, then you have to apply it. And now I'm going to kind of go over multiple ways in which you can apply it, not only as a student here at Purdue during the academic year, but also during the summers, either on campus or away from campus. And one of the core ways you can apply your knowledge at Purdue, whether you're a mechanical engineering student, whether you are a chemical engineering student, any of the 17 different disciplines at Purdue, you can join EPICS. As previously mentioned or alluded to, EPICS is one of the pathways you can pursue for your first year engineering experience. While that is an option, you can also pursue EPICS after your first year engineering experience. So I did not do EPICS my first year. I did EPICS, I want to say my second semester sophomore year or first semester junior year, just as a class that I wanted to take, a class that I wanted to have the opportunity to apply what I've learned in a meaningful way. And the core of EPICS is you have the ability to partner with a organization that needs your services. So say in this picture here, you have the Indiana School for the Blind and Visually Impaired. They needed the opportunity to have Braille translation devices. So these students here have worked and have currently now a patent pending on a Braille translation device that they were able to develop in accordance with the Indiana School for the Blind and Visually Impaired. It allows the Braille typewriter to connect and type in plain text English, as well as working reversibly. So this is one example of the meaningful work you're able to do in EPICS. You have the opportunity to not only work in a team, but you also have the opportunity to develop a budget. If you've never developed a budget, you'll have the opportunity to gain that skill and gain that awareness on campus for class credit. If you've never had the opportunity to work in a team, you'll have the opportunity to work in a team while you're working towards an actual solution for a known problem. If you've never had the opportunity to have an actual customer, someone that is not a theoretical customer that you may see in a textbook, you'll have the opportunity to ask them questions, to ask them clarifying questions, to communicate back and forth on the goals and the needs that they need met. So then you can go back to your team and hopefully make those needs met through the solution that you guys derive. And then again, it's going to be a great place for you to develop those leadership soft skills that are invaluable once you go into the workplace, either as an intern or a co-op or ultimately full-time. So this is one of the cool ways that you get the opportunity to use all that you've learned in the classroom and apply it to a physical piece of technology, piece of mechanical device, whatever the case is, whatever the problem is, you get to apply it in a real world sense. Any questions about EPICS? You guys are just having me talk all the time, and that's not what I was expecting. No questions? Okay, all right. Research. So Purdue is a R1 institution. That essentially means we do a lot of research. We're known for a lot of research, and research is foundational to many aspects of Purdue. Last year, Purdue received around $520 million in research awards. Again, that just means we have the ability to answer a lot of questions through the research process. And that also means that you as an undergraduate student can also participate in those research opportunities. Were over 2,000 undergraduate research projects happening on campus last year. You can be involved in research beginning of your freshman year. You don't have to wait until you are in your major. So that is an opportunity if that is something you want to pursue. Personally, I have not done research just because that's not something I have had the desire to do. Again, the opportunity is there. It's something that I could have pursued, but I always like to make note, you don't have to pursue everything if if you don't want to. You can choose only ethics, or you can choose only research, or you can choose only internships and co-ops, or you can choose a mixture of both, 2 out of the 3, 3 out of the 3. I just always like to make note, while the opportunities seemingly endless at Purdue and at Purdue Engineering, you don't have to do all of them, although they may be there. So you can do research for both pay and for course credit. So what that means is you can spend 10 hours a week doing research for $10 per hour, or you can spend 10 hours during a week doing research for, say, 2 or 3 credits that semester. Both are valuable depending on what frame of mind you're looking at. Some, or I should say, a lot of your curriculum for each major. So I'll speak to electrical engineering. You can use research as like advanced lab credit, or credit that will go towards you graduating. Or if you wanted a part-time job, my part-time job on campus is the Office of Future Engineers. You could do research if you wanted a part-time job, and you can get, you know, anywhere from like $8 to $12, depending on what you're doing, who you're doing it with. So that's another opportunity for you to pursue. And then secondly, I would say not only are research opportunities available during the academic career, but they're also available during the summer. So if you want to do internship one summer and then try out research another summer, that's a great way for you to determine, hey, do I want to do research? Do I want to be a researcher? Do I want to pursue research as a field, or academia? And you'll be able to answer that question, or begin to understand your answer to that question as an undergraduate. So that's very valuable. Okay, we have like 10 minutes. That's good. I'm almost done. Again, I don't want to rush, but if you do have questions, feel free to slow me down. I'm about to go into my favorite topic, internships and co-ops. A lot of students have an interest in this topic. So I suspect there may be a lot of questions. I'm hoping there are a lot of questions. So feel free to chime in and stop me at any point in time. As I mentioned, I had the opportunity to pursue 2 internships, 1 internship at Intel, 2 internships at Microsoft, going into my 3rd one this upcoming summer. Internships and co-ops are one of the more fundamental ways that students get professional or experiential opportunities here at Purdue and in Purdue Engineering. As I mentioned earlier, 85% of all engineering students have had at least 1 internship experience. And in terms of my community, in terms of my circle, I don't know anyone that hasn't had an internship experience. So it's one of the more rewarding. Personally, it's the best part of Purdue Engineering and Purdue is being able to, you know, in my experience, go to Microsoft, go to Intel, and see how what you're learning is directly applying to these real world problems, these real world bottom lines and products that you get to have a say in. So the difference between an internship and a co-op is that an internship is really just a one-time commitment with a specific company. So using my experience as an example, summer 2018, I was able to go to Intel. I liked Intel at the time. And I said, yeah, I want to intern at Intel. I was there for 6 months. And then I ultimately said, I want to try Microsoft. I was able to leave and go to Microsoft the next summer without any breakage in contract or any reneging of a previous agreement. Whereas co-ops, those are multi-session commitments that range from 3 to 5 terms. So you can think of a term as a semester. So it'll be 3 to 5 semesters. So if you start your first semester or first term, summer of your sophomore year, you may have 3 additional terms or 5 additional terms in which you go back to, say, Pepsi until you graduate. Another difference, a big difference between internships and co-ops, internships usually happen during the summer and they do not extend your graduation timeline, whereas co-ops can happen anytime throughout the year. So you may be on a co-op fall semester, spring semester, or again, summer, but usually co-ops do extend your graduation by 1 or 2 semesters. So that's about, I guess, a half or a full calendar year. So instead of graduating in 4 years, you may graduate in 4.5 or even 5 years. With that said, if you do decide to do a co-op, you're still only paying 8 years worth, or excuse me, 8 semesters worth of tuition and expenses. So you're not paying more if you do a co-op. Secondly, as an engineering student, you do get the privilege and opportunity to have paid experiences. So both internships and co-ops will be paid unless you choose not to. In all my years, I have never known anyone to choose a unpaid internship, but I'm sure if you wanted to pursue them, you could. With that said, you may be asking, how do I get all these opportunities? What are the resources available to pursue these opportunities at the companies that I see in the commercials and I get to buy their products from? Well, Purdue has over 30 career fairs throughout the academic year. The biggest is Industrial Roundtable. Industrial Roundtable brings around 400 employees, specifically looking at engineering students. Many of the Fortune 500 and Fortune 100 companies are present at Industrial Roundtable. If you do decide to go to Purdue, I would highly, highly, highly encourage you to go to Industrial Roundtable that first semester you are there. While first year engineering students can get an internship, more importantly, I always suggest to freshmen that they go to Industrial Roundtable so that they get an experience of talking about their resume, communicating what are their strengths, what can they bring to the table, and just talking to a recruiter. You probably never have the opportunity to do that. So getting that practice in, experiencing that environment for the first time is extremely important for the following years when you're going to be more prepared. You're going to have more courses under your belt. And then additionally, Purdue does have over 1,500 unique employers that come to visit campus. So not only through career fairs, but info sessions, recruiting sessions, dinners, luncheons, so be it. You'll have the opportunity to interact with a lot of companies from every industry you can possibly imagine as an engineering student. Any questions?
What did you do at your internship with Microsoft?
Oh, great question. I usually mention that, so I appreciate that. So I did not get coffee. This past summer, I felt more like a full-time employee than I ever have. I was doing market research and competitive analysis on cloud technology. So if you guys have had the opportunity to use, iCloud on your iPhone or YouTube or Gmail or Netflix, these are all services that are living on the cloud. And the cloud is essentially a computer somewhere else where you don't see it. And I was able to understand what are the competitors of Microsoft doing? How can we competitively position ourselves to put out better products and to serve our customers better so that we can make more money? So that was really, really fun. I was able to give a lot of presentations, work hand in hand with other engineers and program managers. I was a program manager intern, so that really lives at the intersection of business, engineering, and people is how I like to describe it. So communicating, having that electrical engineering background, and then thinking about what are the ways we can make money from this is kind of what I did all day and kind of what I thought about. So hopefully I was able to answer your question. Any other questions before I move to the next and kind of wrap up? Awesome. If you do remember them, of course, feel free to ask. Okay.
I do have a question. Sorry.
Yeah,
I do have a question. When you're doing a co-op, you're not taking any classes, or can you take a couple of classes at the same time that you're doing the co-op?
Great question. So it's up to you. I had a 6-month internship, so that was kind of like a mini co-op. I decided to take a class, and then other internship opportunities, I didn't take a class. And to specifically answer your question regarding co-ops, yes, you can take a class if you want to. And then if you don't want to, personally, I wanted to live like I was an adult and didn't want to worry about school. I was already working 40 hours a week. I didn't want to take a class. So that's kind of how I approached my internship experiences. Of course, I've known other students that have always taken summer classes in accordance with their internships or co-ops. And a lot of times co-op students will take like gen eds or online classes, 1 or 2. during their session. So it is an opportunity. It is available to you. You can take engineering classes online, but it's not a requirement and it's not expected of you either.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Colin, I also want to add that co-ops, one difference with a co-op, one of the benefits is that it is non-taxable income. So the income that you earn in an internship would be counted toward if you were getting financial aid. They would look at that income. But however, if you do a co-op, it's classified differently. And so while you may make $25 an hour or so, it's great income, and it won't count towards your income for when they look at your eligibility for financial aid. So that is a great benefit.
Yeah, and you actually just reminded me, both, if you have multiple internships or multiple sessions, you'll graduate with like a year's worth of experience in industry. So that's really the biggest advantage of a co-op or an internship. Like people say, oh, a co-op is going to extend me 5 years for graduating. But what you're getting is so much more valuable, or just as valuable, in terms of you'll graduate with a year's worth of experience. You'll be able to go to that company oftentimes, and they'll offer you a full-time opportunity. So there are a lot of other factors that I didn't get a chance to mention about co-ops and internships. Going on to study abroad, you can be an engineering student and study abroad. You can do so and do it in 4 years as well. Study abroad is a great opportunity for you to experience other cultures, to take classes, engineering specific classes in other countries at other schools. So if that's an interest to you, you are more than welcome to pursue that opportunity. Personally, didn't get an opportunity to study abroad. Was always a goal, just never fell in line with what else I was doing that academic year. In terms of countries that are available to you, if you want an engineering specific opportunity, you have around 25 countries. And then if you don't want an engineering specific opportunity, if you want to do like, I guess, let's say chemistry or biology or physics, if you want to do other study abroad opportunities and experiences, you have around 60 countries to choose from. And then lastly, you can have a student life and being an engineering student. Some of the things that I've done as an engineering student, as I mentioned earlier, I work part-time in the Office of Future Engineers. I have had the opportunity to be a participant in NSBE, and this year I'm on the executive board and the corporate relations chairperson chair. And then I've also had the opportunity to continuously be a College of Engineering ambassador. And then I've also done fun things like intramural sports. So you have the opportunity to do or be as involved as you would like. We have over 1,000 student organizations here at Purdue. You also have the ability to create a new one. All you need is like a faculty advisor. So if you don't find any in the 1,000, then I'm sure you can find people to join the one that you're going to create. And then in terms of common opportunities that people really pursue, especially within engineering, they would be ROTC, bands and orchestras, choir, sports, professional development. So there are organizations that are kind of focused around you becoming, say, like a business leader. And then, of course, we do have Greek life and community service-based organizations on campus. And then to wrap it all up, in terms of application, the application is currently open. The early action deadline is around 2 weeks away, November 1. Today is October 19th, so you have around 2 weeks. The biggest advantage to applying before the early action deadline is, one, you're going to be able to be considered for the GOS scholars, and then two, you'll be able to be considered for scholarships. So if your application is just sitting there, you have everything ready, definitely want to apply before November 1. If you don't have everything ready and you have the opportunity to get stuff in before then, I would say it would be to your benefit to try. And then if not, don't worry. We do have a secondary regular decision deadline, January 15th. If you do apply by November 1, you will know your decision January 15th. So that's another advantage by applying within the next 2 weeks. And then if you decide to pursue the Goss Scholars or Honors College, you'll also know that decision in February. And then if you decide to apply before January 15th, but after November 1, then you'll know at latest March 31st. And then I think the national regular decision day is May 5th, not May 5th, May 1st. So that's not, I don't believe that it's only specific to Purdue, but it is in this case May 1st. So definitely mark that on your calendar. And then if you wish to get in contact with the Office of the Future Engineers, there's his contact information, and I'll hand it over to Mr. Bacon.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Folks, didn't I tell you that this was going to be some great information? I want to, before we go today, first of all, can we thank our guests today? Did they do a marvelous job? Was this full and power packed with information? By all means. So I want to again thank them and want to remind you that we do have other events. Of course, first year engineering is the major pathway that most students want to go, but there is an alternative route for exploratory studies. And I need to correct that. Well, it says Monday, October 20th. That's actually Tuesday, October 20th. And then you've got 2 days this week. If you want help writing your essay, you can do that, as well as Monday, scholarships and scholarship information. We're also going to have a special component within that session where you can get help with your FAFSA. So you can either come and talk to someone about scholarship opportunities, or you can go into another breakout room and talk about how you can get your FAFSA completed. Then we're going to have some students do actual virtual tours where they take you along to residence halls. We're going to do 3 of them. So you'll get an even better look than just seeing virtually on a website. So be sure to sign up for that. And then any questions you have next Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, just prior to that November 1 early action deadline, we're going to be here. We're going to have students on hand from 3 to 6 p.m. Anything you need, we're here for you. Well, we're going to close out today. Thanks again to our fabulous, wonderful speakers who could not have done a better job. Hats off to Colin and Dr. Isabel Jimenez. You guys were absolutely excellent. We tape this, so if someone wants to see this later, they most certainly can. Say right now, goodbye and so long. I'll stick around, and if the other 2 speakers are able to stick around, if you have any additional questions, we'll be happy to answer them. Have a good evening. Bye-bye. Questions.
I do have another question, and I'm so sorry. I logged in late because I had the wrong meeting ID. So is there any way I could get the couple of first slides? I think I logged in like at 13 minutes after the hour. I'm pretty sure there was very important information that I missed.
Dr. Jimenez.
Yeah, sure. I don't know if you're going to, I can send those to Derek and he can share those with you, I think.
Oh.
Or
If you
what
don't
do you
mind.
think will be the best way?
That'd be great. And I can put the email on the chat.
Sure.
Yes, and I have it because you emailed me while the session was going on.
Yeah. Okay,
and
yes,
I
you do have it.
responded to
Thank
you. So
Okay.
I have your email address. I'll be happy to send
Okay.
it to you.
That'd be great. Thank you so much. This information
Mhm.
was very, very useful, as all of the others. Thank you.
Yes, and thank you for coming.
Have a great night.
You too. Good night.
Bye.
Other questions? Is your name pronounced Chiron or Chiron? Mr. Randall, how do you pronounce your name? And I think, Patrick, you spoke during the session earlier tonight, right? Do you have any questions? Hello? Maybe they stepped away. I will say to our speakers, you guys just outdid yourself.
Oh,
Yeah, and I know.
It's always fun to have these sessions. And since the moment I saw Colin connecting, I was like, I know this guy. I have to say, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I was looking at the email. I was like, why do I recognize that name? And it dawned on me. I was like, I know this person.
Yeah. The only part that is like bittersweet is when you say I'm a fifth year student. I'm like, oh God, I'm old.
Right.
5 years ago, it can't be that long.
5 years, 5 years.
But I also have to say that I feel like so proud, like hearing all the things that you're sharing with these kids and actually seeing you. I feel like a proud mama, and I'm not your mom.
Thank you.
You know, like you just get so attached to your students, and you, I mean, even if I don't see you guys, I remember you with a lot of, you know, care. So hearing like how well things are going for you, and just seeing you, how well you articulate everything, I'm like, I'm so proud of this guy.
And he went through super speed. He got through so much information. I was amazed.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
I honestly thought I had a lot more, like, I didn't think I had that much information to feel like 30 minutes, but apparently I did, so.
That's good.
Well, normally we have in like an hour. So I think that was probably a huge factor. We tried to cover a lot. You know, you almost have to be 2 different sessions, really.
I think it was good though. Well, we didn't have a lot of questions, so that also helped.
But the other thing is that you don't want to overwhelm them, right? Like you want to give them like just the right amount of information, like enough that they know that what's out there, that if they want to dig deeper, they can reach out and figure it out.
Yeah.
Well, it was very nice to see you both. I hope you have a nice evening.
Thank you so much.
I'm gonna sign off.
Okay, well, you have a good night. Oh, Colin, I want to ask you one question. Okay, bye-bye.
What's up?
Sometime when you're free, let me take you to lunch.
Okay.
Yeah, just, periodically I take students to lunch or whatever. You were presenting so well. I said, we're just such a great guy. And this is like at least the second time I've asked you to do something. And I just wanted to show appreciation. That's all.
Okay. Next semester, we can see if we can set something up.
Yes. Thanks again. Fantastic job and have a good night.
You as well. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.